What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are sitting in this Golf 7 and we are going to be adding a reverse camera to the factory screen. This screen does come in a few different sizes and this kit will work on all of those screens and all the screen sizes. And yeah, basically we'll go through the parts you need, we'll go through the installation and show you how it all works. Okay, here is our kit. What we have is a module. This is going to allow video input to work on the factory screen. Also does the dynamic guidelines and all that good stuff. Then we've got some wiring here, so we've got a video cable and we've got basically a power harness, RCA input for an aftermarket camera and a remote for settings and all that good stuff. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple kit. We don't even need to use all of the wiring in this kit, basically just power and CAN. But yeah, anyway, we'll go through all that. And yeah, now we can start removing the factory radio. Okay, next up, depending on the year of your car, you'll have either keys or radio screws. So what you want to do is just pop the keys in, like that, pretty easy. And then you can pull the screen out. We used to have to run this over to the head unit, which is in the glove box, to pick up power and CAN, but there is CAN right here. So I'm going to confirm if we can just pick up CAN right here. Otherwise we'll have to do it at the head unit. And while I'm confirming that, let's check out this. So basically, what do you have here? You've got CAN high, so we're going to need that. You've got a rear 12 volt output, so we can use that. Basically what's going to happen is the module will read CAN high and CAN low. So there's your CAN high, CAN low. And it will use that to tell when the car's in reverse, and when the car goes to reverse it will generate a 12 volt output, and that's the power for your aftermarket camera. Okay, so that's good, because when you do a camera on these cars, which I can do a video on this in the future, if you just pick up at the reverse light 12 volts, it'll start flickering and tripping out because the lights have pulse width modulation, and you'll need a relay. So just using that will get rid of that for you. Okay, so we've got CAN, camera power, we've got ground, and we've got accessories power. Okay, pretty straightforward. If you've done this the same way as me, by the way, I just picked up those two tabs and then pulled back to get this out. I'm just going to mount this back into the fascia now because I have a feeling it's supposed to all come out together. Okay, you see, nice and easy, just literally clips right back in. We used to do cameras on these all the time when they were brand new, and from my memory, the vents would come out with the fascia, but who knows. You can unclip the fascia from the vents, separate them, they're designed to be separated, so whatever. So now it's all good. By the way, if you've ordered like a plug and play kit from somewhere and you're watching this video for, you know, like a how to or whatever, the plug and play does not happen here. It happens behind the radio. So if you open the glovey, there's a radio right here. You can just see my finger, ba-boom. All you're gonna need is those keys that we use to remove this. You'll need 2 of those to remove that. Might be easier for you to remove the whole glove box, because those plug and play harnesses have bulky plugs, and yeah, just thinking it might be easier. Once this radio is out, we can mount the module here, but both of our video cables, so 1, 2, and our powers and CAN are running over to the glove box, and we're going to remove the infotainment system here. So this is the main module for the radio. We'll remove that and run our cables over to there, okay? And the module will mount here. So I'll tape this up and we'll get that done. I've gotten the wiring down here, running it with the factory wiring. So if you go sort of follow up, you can see that this loom runs up to the top here, so that when this radio module slides in, they don't get caught on the cables. So it's very important that you run that with the factory wiring. Then you've got one video cable here. That's going to replace the pink, and that goes out to the video in. So video in is going to go where pink was, and this female plug gets plugged into pinky, okay? Just like that. So now we can tape that up and get it out of the way. Okay, now that's out of the way. We can pull back some of this video cable, so we don't need all that. And that's just, like I said, going to go into pink. And then the rest of our connections are done right here. Okay, and the quad lock connector, there's a grey plug right there. That's got CAN in it, it's got a few different cans in it. We're gonna be using pin 6 and 12. Pin 6 and 12 is right at the end. So looking at the back of the plug, it's on the far right hand side, and it is a purple and brown. Now, so it's orange, purple, orange, brown. Orange, brown is CAN low, okay? In European cars, brown is always low. So we can strip this, tap on our CAN wires, and they're labeled CAN high, CAN low. Now with your red and black, it says accessories on it, and right here you've got a fat red and a fat brown. The red is constant, the brown is ground. You can tap that on, okay? So the module actually turns on and off through CAN. It doesn't stay on constantly if you've got this hooked up to constant power. So for the module wiring, that is done. You've got CAN high, CAN low, power and ground. Now what I'm gonna do is heat up the soldering iron, get all these soldered up, tape it up, and then we'll come back and test the module. Alright guys, that is all done, soldered and taped up, and if you look at that, looks like no one even worked there. It's all nice and clean. Now what we can do is plug in our radio module. So remembering, green will now go to pink, mustard to mustard. Before we go too far, as always, we'll test it, just get that sort of ready to go. For the aftermarket camera side of things, I've just left the RCAs and that camera power that we spoke about right here. That's just because I want the camera stuff here and all the hard wiring there. So one, there's less wiring behind this radio. It's easy to, you know, block this from going in due to lack of space. So if it's here, we've got plenty of space. And yeah, so let's plug in and test. Oh, look at that. So that's a good sign. Got power to the module, to the screen. So what I would like to do is ignition on, and look at that. It's switched right into reverse. There's parking sensors going off behind me, but as you can see, it is ready to work. Now it's got the OPS display here. The parking sensors are not factory, they're aftermarket, so it's not going to work. So there is a setting, we can get rid of that display because there's no point having it. If you've got genuine parking sensors, they will work. Dynamic guidelines as well, guys, okay? See that? And you can see it moving a little bit. Car's off, but yeah. So let's keep going. Next up is your camera. You can use any aftermarket camera. You can even get an aftermarket emblem camera, which we're not using. We are using a nice little flush mount. Okay, it's gonna go, oh, you can't even see it. That's the camera right there, nice little flush mount. That'll go on the bottom of the bumper where the number plate is, and it will look really clean out of the way, and that will work fine. So what you need to do is basically, it gets pretty simple from here on out. Plug in your RCA. Now there's two here, one's a front camera, one's a rear. Obviously you want rear. Yes, you can do a front camera for anyone that wants to know. That one says front, okay, so pretty straightforward. We're just gonna go straight into camera. And then that brown wire that we saw, I just wanna get a bit more length on that so I can tape it up. That brown wire that was rear, chop off that weird plug. Okay, do that. On the end of your RCA, this little thing that's coming off is just a power wire. Okay, so you can use this to tap onto something at the front, for example your reverse power, and then at the other end, so your 5 meter long RCA, it comes out there too, and so whatever you tap on here will be at this end. And so when you go into reverse, the module picks up CAN, spits out reverse 12 volt power. You can tap that onto your camera power at the back of the car. So what do we have to do? Run that to the back of the car basically. I'm not going to show you how to do that, but I will give you some tips. So what you're going to do is remove this panel. It's really not hard, like I just did that one-handed. And from there, right in that black hole, you can use a snake to snake over to there. Now if you want to remove the glove box, you can do that too. We didn't need to remove the glove box because we're not doing anything that in depth. So what you do is you tape your wiring up in this nice fabric tape that we've got. Okay, make a nice loom out of it so that it just sits here like all the rest of the wiring. This is all factory wiring. You're going to use a snake to run from there into there, and you're going to pull that RCA through to here. From here, you can run along the body. This is what we're going to do. So this will take a while, so I'm not going to film it because we remove all of these panels. Remove, 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 run over. Okay, run over to here. Then from here, you can remove this panel or snake through, it's up to you. get the cabling to here. And I think that's where I'll start showing you a bit more on what to do, because I can show you how to remove this. Okay, so that's one way. Second way is same thing. Get camera powers to here, or your RCA rather. Okay, the next way is to remove the A pillar. Now that comes off pretty easily. Just right from there, you're gonna pop out and then up. That's how it comes out. And you can snake through the roof using a snake, okay? So that's like a yellow tongue. Up to you. I don't like going through the roof because there's power running through those RCAs, you know, that 12 volt. So we don't run through the roof because those RCAs have a 12 volt running through them and you can get radio reception issues. So dash cameras also have that problem, which is why Blackview and ThinkWare are really good, because they're shielded so well that there's no radio reception problems, okay? But yeah, so for this one, we're just gonna run along the body like I said, and I'll touch base with you guys when we get the wiring to the back. Okay, so next up we want to remove this panel. Now what you need to do is just go and look for some visible screws or little sort of tabs that might open up and have screws behind them. In this case there is none, so what you can do is pull from the bottom of the panel, okay, and you can already see it's unclipped, and just lift it up at the same time. Just like that. You can use a panel popper to get underneath here, but these clips are very tight, so you know, you probably end up having to use a metal one, which you don't want because it can ruin the plastic. So just get your hands under there, pull straight up, okay? Just like that, nice and easy. Check that you've got all your clips, none were left behind. All right, we're done. So, well, not done, but getting your cable to this point will probably be the hardest part of the job, because you've got to remove all this stuff. So this was just off a moment ago. This is all just clips all the way along. There is a screw right there that you need to remove. Then you can get your cabling. So like I said, we run along the body, came along here with the factory wiring down to right here, and that just saved me like an hour of recording. So now what you're going to do is, if you're doing an emblem camera, you've got to run the cabling up through here. So different story. Because we're going right here, what we'll do is measure between the two lights, go smack bang in the middle, mount our camera right there, drill a small hole, and then run the camera cable through that hole, meet it underneath the bumper, and then we're going to run it into the vehicle. These are aftermarket, so we can see where that's been run, and maybe run with those cables, or you can look for a grommet here and run in. So I'll get that done and I'll show you guys what we ended up doing. Alright, I've gotten a bit done since we last spoke. I removed this again, and the wiring, that's not our wiring by the way, that's whoever did the parking sensors. The wiring runs down there, up along here, and it comes down, and we've met here. That's our camera, which you can't even see. Okay, that's our camera right there, and the wiring on the camera is not all that long. Okay, so if there was a grommet on the inside right here, we could have went up into the car, but because we have to go all the way along there, it wasn't long enough. So I've run the RCA that we tapped on at the front down here, plugged it in, and the power that we tapped on from the RCA at the front of the car, I've tapped it onto the camera power, which is plugged into there, okay? Now black needs to go to ground, but you can usually test without doing the ground because it grounds with the RCA. So what we'll do is test. Power's on, car is in reverse. We've got a really nice clear image. Guidelines are working. See those guidelines there? There's two sets of guidelines here, so what we need to do is cut one of the wires on the camera plug. I'll show you where that is. That'll get rid of our guidelines, and then we'll just have the dynamic ones, which are 10 times better. Okay, so usually on your camera, there's a cable like that. There might be two. If there's two, one's mirror and one is guidelines. This is guidelines, so what we need to do, chop, okay? Done. Guidelines are gone now. And what I'll do is solder that. Like I said, we tested without ground, it worked fine, don't need it. Just take a good look at things like, is there interference on the screen? Is there weird things going on? Okay, just if there's like lines and interference, you might need to ground this and it will fix it, or it will make it 10 times worse. Depends on your camera. So I'm gonna leave it like this because that image was crystal clear. It was really, really good. So solder that, tape all this up, make a bundle out of it, zip tie it up behind there, nice and high, and that is pretty much it. Then we can look at the front. Okay, once all your panels are back in and looking good, you can start putting things back together. So what you want to do is push on this, and you might need to go in and out a few times just to make sure, whoops, just to make sure that it goes in without resistance. So if you can push it with one hand, which I can't, we'll need to remove it and go in and out a few times, okay, until the wiring sort of moves out of the way and that clicks in all the way. Now inside the car, module is double-sided and zip tied down, it's not going anywhere, and I've plugged in the remote to IR, so that's how we're going to do some settings. And so what I'll do is, before we completely mount this thing, we'll check the settings out. Okay, so now we've just turned the PDC off. Alright, everything else looks good, so we can get out of that. Okay, so wiring's all good, module's mounted, it's not going anywhere, we've got the screen plugged back in, so we can just basically, all you need to do is line up your tabs, click it in, that's simple, okay? Boom guys, check that out. That is your factory aftermarket camera done. That image is crystal clear. There is not one bit of interference in it. That is really, really good. Alright guys, that is the reverse camera for the Golf, all done and dusted. Like you would have seen, it's a pretty straightforward install. Nothing overly complicated, but this is what is needed to add a reverse camera to that factory screen. And like I said before, that module will work with the different screen sizes of that generation and radio. Now there is another way that you can add a camera to the car. It would be by adding our Apple CarPlay interface. So not only will it give you camera, but it will also give you Apple CarPlay. So this interface does camera only. The CarPlay interface also does a camera. In terms of cost, it's more benefiting to go the CarPlay road because that module is similar in price, but you get CarPlay and you get the camera. So, you know, all in all, that's what it is. But anyway, this video was not about that. This was just the Apple CarPlay. If you have any questions regarding the camera or Apple CarPlay, drop them in the comments below. Website will be in the description, so if you want to reach out to me, you can do it through there as well. And thank you so much for watching. If you haven't, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. I'll catch you guys in the next one.